This is a book review of Decades, Marvel in the 50s, Captain America Strikes. This book is totally Captain America. There's no Submariner, no Human Torch, etc., Namora, Venus, any of the other characters from the 50s. It's all Captain America. Now, I think it includes all of the Captain America that appeared in the 50s when it was considered to be Atlas Comics, though that's more a distribution company than that. So Timely Comics, Atlas, Marvel, whatever you want to call it. Well, that was 1950s, and you had this sort of Captain America when he was battling communists, Red Skull, Electro, and a number of others. There's 176 pages in this. It's part of a series of decades. There's 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, etc., which all look very good. There's the back. You can see it's got a number of stories. They're very short stories, so they're like 5 pages, 6 pages kind of thing. So you've got Young Men 24 to 28, they're great titles back then. Then you've got Captain America 76 to 78, Men's Adventures 27 to 28. So a lot of these magazines, the comics, Men's Adventures were generic sort of comics. They had like adventure stories, there were crime stories, etc. And then, of course, they tried to revive the characters from the 40s. Didn't really work out, unfortunately, which is unfortunate because it would have been great if they had continued with all these stories, but they didn't. So this is a lot of this work, all this work has been collected in the Marvel Masterworks series, the Atlas era period. But that also included Submariner as well as the Human Torch stories, and they were great. So I love those. It'd be great if they brought out the Human Torch stories in this sort of format as well. Of course, the Submariner ones have recently been brought out in the omnibus, though perhaps not all of them. I don't think, only the Bill Everett ones, because there's been a Bill Everett omnibus. So it would be really nice if those sort of the 50s superheroes were brought out in a sort of trade paperback book, the 50s sort of collection. So imagine 500 pages, you'd probably put virtually the whole 600, probably a couple of volumes maybe. However, let's get on with the book. And I really enjoy these. I really do. So there's the other Decades one. So you can see Decades there, you've got the 40s, you've got like the Human Torch and Submariner story. That one is, now I haven't got that one, so I don't know what's in it. You've got Spider-Man. Spider-Man meets the Marvel Universe. So I assume from the thing it might be where obviously there was crossover stories. Legion of Monsters as well for the 70s. Though I must admit that to me the 70s was not monsters, though. So obviously they decided that's what they were going to go for. You've got an introduction where it explains about how the fact, though the artists and writers at the time said it, Professor Steve Rogers, that it was Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes, and he was alive, it was none of that. That story with Zemo and the plane and all that sort of stuff, which I never, ever, to my mind, I don't know why they did that, why they just didn't sort of have the characters basically turn around and said, well, you know what, the super soldier serum made him age a bit less. Poor old Bucky would, of course, been a bit older, but you could have still had Bucky Barnes as a character. Just would have been an older character. Would have been simpler than putting him in a block of ice. However, lots of great artists involved. John Romita and Senior. And you've got Mort Lawrence and Bill Benulis. I want to say his name right. Jack Abel as well. And you've got also covers by Carl Burgos and Howard Chaykin. Also, I love Howard Chaykin's work. So I'll just briefly talk about that. So there is a modern story in here. The modern story does take up about 30 or 40 pages, but it's Captain America, commie smash up. So you get the general gist of the story. I think there's some commies in it, and there's a lot of smashing. And it's typical Howard Chaykin. I love, or Chaykin. I don't know. I assume that's how his name is said. My apologies. I said it wrong. Sadly, these comics just fizzled out. Issue 78, September 1954. Steve Rogers was once again on ice. Victory. But of course, they made up a complete contrived story. There was a lot of other storyline. Anyway, it's like the JSA and Justice League of America. Sometimes it's just always added complexity to these things that I think, why? But I guess it makes for great stories. So let's get to the actual book. I thoroughly enjoy these. Maybe not every. They are of their time, so you might absolute hate this period. If you're comics, you love comics from the 90s, then you probably will really dislike these. So you've got the young men. You can notice, obviously, it's got Human Torch on the front. He's back from the dead, which is good. And because it would be wrong if he wasn't. And how did they know he was dead? Anyway, he was just back from not being around for a while. Because the only person that would know he was dead would have been maybe the person that did it. So he's giving himself away on the cover. However, probably not. Submariner, Captain America and Bucky, in red as well. This is weird. On the cover, I just noticed that. Bucky is in red. However, of course, in the comic himself, he's in blue. But then again, Captain America, for some weird reason, has got a red A on his... They weren't very consistent in the colour scheme there. However, not only consistent, you've got a pink, poor old red skull, a pink skull. But he's as villainous as ever, and he does something with the United Nations. But like I said, these stories are only 6 pages, and they 6 pages, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. And I love it. Just great, great story. They really knew how to, they didn't mess around. It was just a lot of people punching people, throwing things, bopping people, and that was the story. And of course, he's a professor in this, Professor Rogers. And I love the blurbs at the bottom. Captain America and Bucky are teamed again in the next action-packed issue of Young Men. But hold everything and read on. From the depths of the sea emerges a mighty, etc. So you can guess who that is. Submariner. I love the next one as well. So you've got the next story. I'm not going to show it because obviously that will show the back of the previous story. Human Torch returns. It's good because he returned in the last issue as well. However, 25, you've got a lovely skyline there of New York, and commies on the front as well. The Submariner. And you got this one, The Executioner. That's a real good story. And that's just real. I just love the way they laid. This is the thing that I love about this, like these comics, the 50s, is that they really did not, what's the name with the styles of artwork? It was really odd. At times you had massive figures. Now this is, you've got a scene here that it just looks odd. Jumps out panel. You got Captain America literally leaping out of the panel. You got that's an atomic cannon, and he boom, obviously the atomic bomb at that period. And you got you can work the stories out. You can work the stories out. It's quick. They're not complex stories. Well, that's a good. The next one's a good one as well. He's been injected. So you got Captain America injected with something. Who knows what it is? Obviously, those communists obviously injecting. Something a bit familiar recently. So you got young men again, and this one has got the hypnotist one. No one can stop the hypnotist. Well, obviously that story is not in here. We've got the Red Skull, good old Red Skull again. Poorly pink, the pink skull, the Betrayers, and I just love some of the poses as well. Got some great poses. You got some. The artwork is superb, just really, really great. Now, I mean, I know that people will turn around and say, no, it isn't superb. Well, I think it is. I think it's got a style. It's got a gusto and energy. There's no, subtlety with this. No subtlety at all. I mean, you've got like a massive hand there going across wherever it is. I don't know where that is. But anyway, wherever it is, it's got a massive hand going over it. And you just got, no worries about anything. It just... come to the commies. Now, not all the stories had story titles either, which is, you've got, now I have no idea who these are. No idea. Indochina. So you've got some great pictures there. I always love the blurbs at the end. Captain America, again, ploughs into the commie nests and smokes them out. Actually, the next story was The Girl Who Was Afraid, so it's slightly different from what they actually said in the thing. But this is Men's Adventures. This one's set in Egypt. Just great. I mean, what? And I love the panels on the cover. I mean, no messing around. Panels on the cover. Imagine that the outcry that people would say nowadays if there was panels like showing us. People get angry or miffed off if there's word balloons on the cover. But panels? No, can't have that. You Die at Midnight. Striking Back at the Soviet. All good stuff. And there's quite a few Soviet stories, as you can guess from things, but it's just great. I just find this artwork just absolutely superb. Now, you might, what's the name about the opinions and things? Obviously, it is of its time, and that's all you can ever say. It's like any of these, like the Young Allies. If you look at those, you have to look at it as a period document. If you look at it, anything more than that, yeah. They had obviously a certain way of looking at the world, and they really just let it go. So Captain America dies today. His touch is death. You got there. You got Electro. Now Electro, but also I love about this, covered with asbestos to hide his charged body. Well, that wasn't a good idea. Probably killed him a couple of years later. Well, ho hum. However, but I love the way they use the panel. So it's not even a panel. It's literally a thin panel. It's got like sort of very thin panel with a little picture of people rowing in a boat. No one would do that now. I can't imagine. I haven't seen a panel like that for years. But you got Electro. I love the Captain America, the logo across the top as well. Just brilliant. Electro is obviously not the same Electro. He's similar. He's got electrical power. And I think he turned up again in like the Invaders and other ones, obviously Roy Thomas ones. Great stuff. Some more stories of, this one's got a dragon, a green dragon. Great stuff. Also, I love this one as well. You got a panel, again, another thin. I love that. It's very economical, actually. Just having a thin, maybe I should do that for my comic books. Put a thin thing, just a little blurb about it. And then tick-tock, tick-tock. You got a little clock there. Just great. Says it all. You know exactly when you see that panel what is happening. No messing around. And that's it. Sad to say, that was the whole run of, and what a finale as well. Just a classic finale, a real dramatic finale to the 1950s. And again, it's such a pity that these comics just stopped, just died out. I mean, especially when, probably 1954, 1955, that sort of end, only a year or two later, Flash appeared in Showcase 4. So it's could have waited around just a little bit longer and we would have maybe sort of, not just, obviously, the Monster, which has produced some great stuff. Some great comics, and I like the Monster ones anyway. Kratu strikes back, or whatever, takes over the world. But you got this story of Howard Chaykin at the back. And that's just great. Love Howard Chaykin's work. This is very dramatic, powerful thing. But you can see how the panels and everything are very different from the way. This is the thing I love about the old comics, is just looking at how they work the scene, how they did the timing, how the story. It's just great. But of course, Howard Chaykin, brilliant artist, and it's a great story of Cap. Gives a bit more behind the scenes to the change, the character. Now, I can't show you this thing because it's back again. This is showing, get your copies today while they last. And you've got the Human Torch, Captain America and Submarine. It's got all the covers there. It's an advert. In answer to many requests, Atlas magazines. Now, I guess probably that's what they were, Atlas magazines. So you can call themselves Atlas Comics, Atlas magazines. Most odd. So I guess they, not just distribution, they thought of themselves as Atlas. So this is brilliant as well. You've got some bonus material at the back, and you've got no words on it. So it's completely wordless. No letters, word balloons, and unlettered art by John Romita. And it's quite interesting looking at a comic book without seeing the word balloons. You can still work the story out, of course. Not difficult. I'm surprised people haven't done that. A comic book, I expect they have. Silent comic book. Will Eisner, I'm certain, has done a silent comic book. I think he has. Got some lovely men's adventure. This one's Mort Lawrence. That's really quite good. Actually, I always think when I look at these ones, the black and white pages, the bonus material, when you strip away all of the colour and you just got the line work. And also, same, when you look at the pencil work, I've seen examples of pencil work of some of these comics, not this one, but of that period. And you see, they could really draw really well. And obviously the process, the colouring and everything, somehow, and the way it ends up, the result of it isn't always as good. But when you see it in black and white from the original page, the original art page, you really can appreciate that they were very, very good artists. And that the process slightly let them down, that you didn't get such great quality at the end. So that is the sad thing about these things. When you look back, I'm certain the same with the 40s. You look at some of the 40s comics, I'm certain the 40s comics were amazing, the pencil drawings and also the inking. But then when the process got to the end result, the result is not as good. And sadly, all those pages, lots of them, have all disappeared, which is a real pity. Ho-hum. But also this book also includes Marvel Masterworks, Atlas Era Heroes, and that was the book that included these Volume 1, and that's by Roy Thomas. And it's got a complete description, his view of all the various things. The Hour of Doom. And the final 1950s issue of Captain America. I love Roy Thomas's articles or introductions or whatever. They're just always great. So it's nice to have that included here. And then you've got a final picture here. Alter Ego magazine. This was issue 35. An unused splash panel. Just brilliant. And then there's the other decades ones there. These ones are from the 90s and zeros, or what do you want to call them, and a decade of the tens. The tenties. I don't know what it's called. Tens? Was it? What was it? Who knows? There's the back again. And that's it. Decades. Marvel in the 50s. A thoroughly enjoyable, really, really recommended read. I love this book. It's just of its time, of its period, but thoroughly, I just think it's brilliant. Totally recommended.